1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, the thing is, those movies, I mean, the first 15 minutes of Saving Private Ryan are like being at a Metallica gig, and then you're in a traditional movie that's like the Alamo or something. You know, it's just daft. Having spoke to people who have been involved in these things, you know, one of the characters talks about trying to put the right foot with the right leg and the right hand after an IED's ripped into shreds. And that's the reality of it. And I don't think cinema can get close to that. So I wanted the words to be as descriptive and as powerful. And that is theatrical, no doubt about it. But it's what you converge that with. And I've converged it with a kind of photography that was very explicit and expressionistic. And with sound design and music that's entirely cinematic. You know, that stuff does not come from any other world other than cinema. Yeah. And of course, the most important part of the process in my mind is the editing. And the editing is pure cinema. You know, the way that you take something so simple but create different moods and nuances and tones just by patterns of editing and creating a rhythm. Yeah. So, you know, our approach to it was always cinematic. Although, you know, I think convergence is a big thing for me. You know, I use HDSLR cameras. I shot this with a 5D and a 7D using CP2s, compact primes, Zeiss compact primes, which made it pin sharp, I think, in that low light. I think that was very important. I'm not sure the Canon lenses could have quite delivered that pristine image. But essentially, kind of using those cameras and these stories evoking a kind of photography as well as a sense of theatre and drama and with the sound of cinema attached to it is convergence. And that's what I'm about, I think. So, and have been about, you know, for the last 4 years now, 5 years. So it's a big deal to me. And it's a matter of what I do with that next. So my feeling is that British dramatists have responded in a not very powerful way to Iraq, and the fare that's been offered have really been kind of finger-pointing polemics, which have been very negative about the armed forces generally. My film is not negative about the armed forces. It's very negative about the political response to the war, but certainly not. I mean, if you analyse all of my work from the Skids, the band I used to be in, all the way through my movies, essentially most of my work concentrates on young working class guys. Picture place here. Most of my movies deal with young working class guys who have a restricted choice in life and do the best by themselves, they think, and their families. So rather than becoming just another moron, you know, who's not part of the society around them, they engage with it. And one of the ways out from where I came from certainly wasn't media, where I found myself, was kind of engineering or coal mining or the British Army. So the coal mining was in retreat. The submarine bases around where I live were being closed down. And the only place to go was the British Army. And a lot of these guys joined it, not because they wanted to go to Northern Ireland or wherever, but because it gave them a sense of themselves. And some of my characters in the film talk about that. So, you know, there's a definitely positive approach to a certain aspect of British culture, and I try and throw it into a positive light. I feel sometimes somewhat aggrieved by watching these kind of movies that I call cultural tourism that go and show us what it's like on a housing estate and how violent and terrible it is. And you go, well, I'm from a housing estate and I don't remember it being like that. And there's the humour and the camaraderie and the friendship and all the normal things. So I think in my own little way I was trying to redress these things. Forget about the content, forget about the kind of stylization, and forget about my history. Yeah. I thought the celebration would be, wait a minute, here's a guy who's showing how to take up these small cameras, get an amazing cast of actors together, hopefully some strong writing, and come up with a solution to how to make a 90, 100-minute film, wrap it up in this incredible sound design and look, and then go, yeah, 5,000 quid, and it's got distribution, and it'll make money. And it's been invited, so far to the Copenhagen Documentary Festival, Tehran, Vancouver, Glasgow, and there'll be many more to follow. So that film will travel, and its message will travel, which is important to me. But actually, what you said, in many ways, is one of the most important parts of this process. And I don't know, maybe it's because one reviewer said to me, how much did it cost? And I went, 5. And he went, wow, 5 million, that's a lot. I went, 5 million? I said, 5,000, man. 5,000, not 5 million. And I think that tells you plenty, that they wouldn't know the difference between 5 million and 5,000. And I think reviewers, for the most part, their job is to review what's in front of them, in the sense of, did I like it or didn't I, and why did I like it and why didn't I like it. But sometimes it would help if they knew a little bit more about the process, because they comment on the process, they make comments on it, but they don't really understand it. I just read Mark Commode's new book, the other day, and the guy hasn't really got a clue about the process, but is confident in himself enough to think that he does, and he doesn't. And I think my little analogy a minute ago, someone thinking I was talking 5 million rather than 5,000, pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
Here's the rub. The most important thing is, if you're going to go out and try and convince other people to work with you, you've got to be convinced yourself. And so you've got to be convinced in a story in so many different ways. You've got to be so passionate about it that there's no way that you wouldn't let it happen. And people like that when you're working with them. You don't have to come up with some kind of fascist bully, but, persuasion through enthusiasm and having a fairly effusive sense of what you're about works. It really works, and people like that. And also it helps when you show them a bit of your work and think, and look at my position, you think, I don't think I've made a terrible film. I've made some good films, some not so good, but they're not terrible.
Yeah.
You would think that I would have walked into a big movie by now.
Yeah.
I've got a decent body of work, but it hasn't happened. Yeah. So, my response to that, should I be bitter and angry and just go, well, you know what? Time to forget about this. No way. Absolutely no way. You're kidding, aren't you? It makes me even more committed to doing stuff. And like I say, I intend to do another movie this year. Sorry, man, just doing an interview. Thank you. I intend to do another movie this year, Vexations, which I think is going to have lots of different qualities about it, and it's going to be something I'm very serious about. Weirdly enough, for me, I think I've started to take my work seriously for the first time, whereas before I was a little bit more relaxed about it, and que sera, it is what it is, but now I'm very, very serious about it.
Yeah.
It's my son waving to me in the background here. Yeah, great.